Hello students, welcome back to the class. So let us continue the last class wherein we were discussing about the IUPAC nomenclature of alcohol. So along with that, let us know about the physical properties and also the distinguishing test for alcohols. So IUPAC nomenclature we were discussing, if you remember. So we actually take the longest continuous carbon chain as a parent compound that contains the alcoholic group, and wherein we actually remove the terminal E, and in that place we add OL, isn't it? So methane becomes methanol, or ethane becomes ethanol, and propane becomes propanol. So this is how it continues. And we actually number the parent chain in such a way that carbon attached to the hydroxyl group has to get the lowest possible number. The carbon which is linked to the hydroxyl group has to get the lowest possible number. Then substituents name as prefixes we have to add to the main name, and alcohol with 2-hydroxyl group we name it as diol, and with 3-hydroxyl group as triol. Here you can see some of the examples wherein you are numbering this compound as 1, 2, 3 starting from our right hand side. So because this carbon has a hydroxyl group, and according to the IUPAC rule, the carbon which contains the hydroxyl group has to get the lowest possible number. If we had to start from the left hand side, so then this carbon will get the carbon number 3. So which is wrong, right? That is why I started with the right hand side, so that it has got the carbon number 1. Now this is 3 carbons. The parent has 3 carbons, hence it is propane, and 1 hydroxyl group. So propane 1 ol, that is 1 ol represent the OH link to the first carbon, and it also has a substituent methyl group present at the second carbon. Hence we name it as 2-methyl propane 1 ol, or 2-methyl 1-propanol is also okay. Okay, then similarly let us see another example wherein the parent chain has 4 carbon, and now in this structure we have to start numbering it from our left hand side, so that this carbon bearing the hydroxyl group will get the lowest number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is actually 4 carbons in the parent chain, hence it is butane. So butane 2 ol. So there is no other substituent except the hydroxyl group, hence it becomes 2-butanol, or in other words it is butane 2-ol. Similarly, there are a number of examples which you can follow to name those alcohols. So let me move on to the next. Okay, here is a table which contains some of the structures along with their common name and the IUPAC name. So you know the common name is just the alkyl alcohol. To the alkyl group we add alcohol, right? So this is CH3OH, methyl alcohol or methanol. Similarly, you have ethyl alcohol or ethanol, propyl alcohol or propanol. So here you can see there is a slight change. We call this as N-propanol or N-propyl alcohol, and the same number of carbons. This is isopropanol. So this is, so propane 1-ol is N-propyl alcohol, whereas propane 2-ol is isopropyl alcohol. So N represented is a straight chain, whereas iso represented is a branch chain. So that is all is the difference. So N-propyl alcohol is propane 1-ol, whereas isopropyl alcohol is propane 2-ol. Okay, similarly you have butyl alcohol or butanol, same thing as butane 1-ol or butane 2-ol, fine, or isobutyl alcohol, a tertiary butyl alcohol. Okay, so these are some of the examples. So now let us know, after nomenclature, let's move on to the physical properties of alcohols. So first let me tell you about the solubility. So whether alcohols are soluble in not. See, alcohol consists of two main groups, which are they? One is a non-polar chain, other one is a polar hydroxyl groups. See, the polar group or the hydrophilic group present in this alcoholic compound is the OH group. So OH is a polar group, whereas the remaining hydrocarbon chain is a non-polar chain, or it is a hydrophobic in nature. So the hydrocarbon chain is not capable of forming hydrogen bonds with water, hence it is not soluble. Okay, so alcohol consists of two parts. One is a polar hydroxyl group and the other one is a non-polar hydrocarbon chain. So alcohols might be water soluble. So the solubility of alcohol depends on the length of the carbon chain. Okay. So more the number of carbon chain or the hydrocarbon chain, the longer the hydrocarbon chain, less it is soluble. Okay. Here are two examples I have taken. Methanol, which has only one carbon, and CH3. So this is actually the hydrocarbon chain, has one hydrophilic group OH, or the polar group. So it is very much soluble in water because it has a very short hydrocarbon chain. Coming to the butanol, butanol has four carbons. So the hydrocarbon chain is much more longer compared to the methanol. But the hydroxyl group is only one. This is the only polar group present, whereas it has this long hydrocarbon chain which is hydrophobic or non-polar. Hence, butanol is slightly soluble in water. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the structure of octanol, octanol has a very long hydrocarbon chain with only a small hydrophilic or the polar group present in it. Hence, it is insoluble in water. So, therefore, we can say alcohol solubility depends on the length of the carbon chain. So, longer the carbon chain, less soluble it is in water. Okay. Then most of these common alcohols are colorless liquids and have fruity odors. Then coming to its boiling point, alcohols have a higher boiling point than that of alkane containing the same chain length. Say for example, you have methyl alcohol, that is CH3OH, and its parent alkane is methane, CH4. So both of them have the same carbon, but when you look at their boiling point, methyl alcohol has more or a higher boiling point for the methyl alcohol compared to its parent alkane, that is methane. Why this happens? This is because the hydroxyl group present in the alcoholic compound, they form hydrogen bond to each other, and whereas in alkane the intermolecular force is only London force, which is quite weak compared to the hydrogen bond. Here you can see an example I am showing you, ethanol. Here the OH group of the ethanol is capable of forming hydrogen bond with its adjacent molecule. So this hydrogen bond is quite strong compared to the London force that is present in the alkane. That is the reason alcohols have higher boiling point compared to their parent alkanes. Okay, so let's know about some of the commonly encountered alcohols in your laboratory. So if you name them, so you can say methanol and ethanol, that is methyl alcohol or ethyl alcohol, which are commonly used in the laboratory, isn't it? So these are the commonly encountered alcohols, what I meant. So methanol or methyl alcohol is primarily used as an industrial solvent. So it is mainly used as an industrial solvent to create inks or to prepare ink, resins, adhesive and dyes. Methanol is highly toxic. whereas ethanol, it's less toxic compared to the methyl alcohol in small percentage. So this is the main ingredient that is present in almost all the alcoholic beverages. You name alcoholic beverage that contain ethanol or ethyl alcohol. So this is the only alcohol which is consumed or which can be consumed in smaller amounts. Because ethanol can readily dissolve in water and other organic compounds, it is an ingredient in quite a range of products. Like it is also used in cough syrup, in mouthwash liquid, paints, varnishes, and also as fuel. So when I say fuel, I hope you have all used spirit lamp in your botany or zoology laboratory whenever you are preparing a slide, isn't it? That spirit is nothing but denatured alcohol which contains 35 to 40% of ethyl alcohol. Now what do you mean by denatured alcohol? See, denatured alcohol is a form of alcohol. It is ethanol only, but it is made unfit for drinking. It is made unfit for human consumption by adding some of the chemicals called denaturants. Generally, the denaturant that is used for this denatured alcohol is methanol, because methanol is highly toxic. So one cannot consume this spirit. Okay, so just 10 ml of methanol. So the toxicity, if I want to tell you, 10 ml of methanol consumption can lead to blindness, and if it is 30 ml of methanol that is consumed, it's so fatal that it is like inviting death. Okay. Okay, now because we are using one of the alcohol based product almost daily in our life, it's been forced to use in our daily life. You know what I am meaning? Here it is, hand sanitizer, right? The hand sanitizer, we are using it to keep ourselves protected from the virus, isn't it? See, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention study, sanitizer with an alcohol concentration of 60 to 95% are effective in killing germs. Fine. So, what are the components of an effective hand sanitizer? It contains either ethanol or propanol. Okay, so these are the only two alcohols that are used in hand sanitizer. Ethanol of the concentration 60 to 85% or propanol, either isopropanol or N-propanol of the ratio 60 to 80% is used. So how exactly does alcohol-based sanitizer work? You know, alcohol inactivates the germs like virus by attacking their cell structure. It attacks the cell structure. Where exactly it attacks? It damages the lipid layer that envelops this virus. Now it is the coronavirus against which we are using the sanitizer. So it damages what? The alcohol in the hand sanitizer. When you rub on your palms, if there is any virus, it actually damages the lipid layer that envelop the virus. Thus, the virus loses the integrity of its membrane structure, and hence it will no more be capable of infecting anyone. Okay, thus it makes the virus impossible to infect anyone. Then along with these alcohols, glycerol will be present in the hand sanitizer to prevent the drying of the skin. Glycerol actually acts as a moisturizer, and also the hydrogen peroxide will be present in some of the hand sanitizer because it is an antibacterial agent. Hydrogen peroxide acts as an antibacterial agent which kills the bacterial spores, and some of the fragrances also may be present in the sanitizer, right? Okay, so this I wanted to tell you because this is one of the alcohol based product which finds very much use these days. Now moving on to the classification of the monohydric alcohols. You know what are monohydric alcohols? The monohydric alcohols are the one which contains only one alcoholic group, isn't it? The alcohols, this monohydric alcohol is classified as primary, secondary or tertiary alcohols by considering what? By considering the number of carbons bound to the hydroxy-bearing carbon. So, if you want to name an alcohol as primary or secondary or tertiary alcohol, what we have to observe? We have to observe to how many carbon atoms the carbon which contains the hydroxyl group is linked. Now see in this example, this carbon which contains the hydroxyl group is bound to only one other carbon, that is CH3, isn't it? Hence this is a primary alcohol. So now I hope you understood the definition. See, alcohols are classified as primary, secondary, tertiary based on what? By looking at the number of carbons bound to what? Bound to the hydroxy bearing carbon. So this hydroxyl group bearing carbon is bound to only one carbon. Hence it is primary alcohol. Similarly, secondary alcohol is, again we have to look at the carbon containing hydroxyl group. And this carbon, how many other carbons are linked? So the hydroxy bearing carbon here is linked to two other carbon atoms. Hence it is a secondary alcohol. Similarly, the hydroxy bearing carbon here is linked to three other carbon atoms. Hence it is a tertiary alcohol. Okay, I hope it is clear. See, the alcohols are classified as primary, secondary or tertiary alcohol by considering the number of carbon bound to the hydroxy bearing carbon. If the hydroxy bearing carbon has bound to only one carbon, then it is primary alcohol. If the hydroxy bearing carbon is linked to two other carbons, then it is secondary alcohol. If the hydroxy bearing carbon is linked to three carbons, then it is tertiary alcohol. Okay, here again I have some of the examples with the IUPAC name and the common name. So here you can see this is a parent chain containing 4 carbon. So it is butane. Butane 1-ol or butyl alcohol it is. Which type of alcohol? This is primary alcohol. Why it is primary alcohol? Here if you see the structure, the hydroxy bearing carbon, this is the hydroxy bearing carbon. It is linked to only one other carbon, right? The hydroxy bearing carbon in this butanol is linked to only one carbon, hence it is a primary alcohol. Similarly, if you look at this structure, again it is butane only containing an alcohol. This is 2-butanol, isn't it? Now, what type of alcohol is it? Is it primary or secondary? So, what you have to look at is, you look at the number of carbon bound to the hydroxy bearing carbon. Okay, which is the hydroxy bearing carbon here? The second carbon, CHOH. To how many carbon it is linked? It is linked to 2 carbons. On one side it is CH3 and on the other side it is CH2. Hence it is a secondary alcohol. So the hydroxy bearing carbon, because it is linked to 2 other carbons, it is secondary alcohol. Similarly, we have tertiary alcohol wherein the hydroxy bearing carbon is linked to 3 other carbon atoms. So this is actually amyl alcohol, or it is 2-methyl 2-butanol it is called. Okay. So I hope you have learned about the primary, secondary and tertiary alcohols, how to name them and what they are. Okay, now let's go for the distinguishing test for these primary, secondary and tertiary alcohols. So how to distinguish them? They are distinguished by a test called Lucas test. So Lucas test is used to differentiate between the primary, secondary and tertiary alcohol. by using Lucas reagent. So the reagent used in this test is called Lucas reagent, which is nothing but an equimolar mixture of anhydrous zinc chloride in concentrated hydrochloric acid. So what is Lucas reagent? Lucas reagent is a equimolar mixture of anhydrous zinc chloride present in concentrated hydrochloric acid. Okay. Now this test was named after Howard Lucas. Fine. So now let's know the test. Okay. This test is based on the difference in the reactivity of these three classes of alcohols to form the product. So which is the product that is formed? It is chloroalkane. So you take an alcohol wherein it reacts with the HCl in the presence of zinc chloride, which is nothing but this HCl zinc chloride mixture is the Lucas reagent. So alcohol and treating with the Lucas reagent, the ROH reacts with HCl forming RCl. Fine. This chloroalkane formation, the rate of reaction of primary, secondary and tertiary alcohol differs. So each one reacts in a different rate to form this product. So thereby we can differentiate or distinguish those alcohols. So a positive test means a colorless solution forming a turbid solution. This indicates that the product has formed. Okay. So this is a colorless clear solution. When it turns turbid, which means the product has formed. Fine. So let's see how exactly. Now let us see the Lucas test and its reaction. How exactly we do it in the laboratory. See, the rate of reaction of these different classes of alcohol is different, wherein the primary alcohols are more reactive compared to the secondary alcohol, and the secondary alcohol is more reactive compared to the primary alcohol, which means to say tertiary alcohol is more reactive with the Lucas reagent, whereas primary alcohol is less reactive. Okay. Now let's do the test, or let's start with the test. So we have taken an alcohol solution. We don't know which class it belongs to. So you add with the Lucas reagent, that is zinc chloride with HCl. So no reaction. So the alcohol solution, the given alcohol solution with the Lucas reagent is not forming any product. So how do I know the product has formed or not? Because it has to form a turbidity, right? Because it's a chloroalkane salt, turbidity has to appear if the product was formed. So no reaction at room temperature indicates it's a primary alcohol. Okay, because primary alcohol is the one which shows less reactive or which is least reactive with the Lucas reagent at room temperature. Hence, no turbidity appears, indicates the given alcohol is a primary alcohol. Coming to the butyl alcohol, you have taken a alcohol solution. Okay, we don't know which class it belongs to. Treat it with the Lucas reagent, that is zinc chloride and HCl. What it forms a product. Okay, it has formed a product. How do I know that? See, turbidity can be seen after 5 to 10 minutes. So you leave the reaction, you wait for some 10 or 15 minutes. Even then no turbidity appears, it indicates it's a primary alcohol. But if the turbidity is seen after 5 to 10 minutes, it is a secondary alcohol. Because secondary alcohol reacts moderately, the rate of reaction is moderate with the Lucas reagent. Hence, it takes some time to form the product. So, appearance of turbidity in 5 to 10 minutes indicates the given alcohol is a secondary alcohol. Fine. Then similarly, how do we know it is a tertiary alcohol? So, take the given alcohol solution, add Lucas reagent, that is zinc chloride and HCl. It forms a product, of course. How do I know the product has formed? I can see the turbidity immediately, which means rapid appearance of the turbidity indicates that it is a tertiary alcohol, because you know that Tertiary alcohol is highly reactive with the Lucas reagent, so it forms the product immediately. Hence, turbidity can be seen immediately. Okay, so this is how Lucas test is done to differentiate or distinguish different classes of alcohols. Thank you.